This is booked for drama, where stories burn, hearts break, the tea is always hot and never a part 2. Today we're diving into echoes of a hated moon. Let's go. Chapter 1. I was Alpha, Scott's fated human mate. He hated me for 10 years, yet he died saving me in an explosion. Driven to suicide by the pack, I reopened my eyes to find myself back on the day the moon goddess designated me as Scott's mate. Human. A weak human is my mate? What kind of sick joke is this? Scott's roar echoed across the moonlit plaza. I stood frozen, my heart pounding. I was back to the Moonhunt Festival from 10 years ago, the day my destiny and Scott's intertwined. Alpha, this is the moon goddess's decree, the head elder reminded him softly. To hell with the moon goddess's decree. Scott ripped off the ceremonial badge pinned to his chest. I will not accept a useless female without even claws as my Luna. The werewolves around us whispered amongst themselves. Joanna stood a short distance away, a smug smile playing on her lips. She was noble and elegant, a blue blood, Scott's childhood sweetheart. I took a deep breath. This time, I wouldn't make the same mistakes. I request to perform the severing ceremony. My voice was clear and firm, causing an uproar in the plaza. Scott's expression froze, his golden eyes flashing with disbelief. What? You heard me, Alpha. I looked him straight in the eye. I want to cut the bond between us. I asked the Elder Council to allow Scott and Joanna to mate, to strengthen the pack alliance. The plaza erupted into chaos. This was unprecedented, a mate chosen by the moon goddess actively requesting to sever the bond? Hal, Scott laughed mockingly. I didn't expect you to have some self-awareness. My heart felt like it was being stabbed, but I fought back tears. I remembered the moon goddess's words, within 1 day of your rebirth, you must remedy his 3 greatest regrets from his past life to change his fate. But rebirth always comes with a price. The first regret, regretting being mated to Eleanor. I would grant him his wish. The severing ceremony requires preparation, the head elder said with a frown. It will take at least 3 days. Then let's not waste any time. Scott looked at me coldly, then turned to leave. Elle instinctively reached out and grabbed the hem of his shirt. Wait, what now? He snapped, turning back impatiently. Before we officially sever the bond, could you take me to Skyfall Ridge to see the aurora just once? I asked, mustering my courage. This was one of my biggest regrets from my past life. He had never agreed. Scott frowned, a flicker of confusion in his eyes. I knew what he was thinking. Why was I being so compliant, even proposing the severing myself, yet making such a request? Unexpectedly, he nodded. Tomorrow night, don't keep me waiting. I stood rooted to the spot, watching him walk away. You're such a silly girl, a gentle voice said from behind me. It was the old shaman, the pack's wise man. Why do you say that? Because your eyes betray you, the old shaman said meaningfully. Even as you decided to sever the bond, you're still deeply in love with him. I couldn't deny it. Scott's father has asked me to start preparing for the severing ceremony tomorrow, the shaman sighed. They've been looking forward to this day for a long time. I know. The shaman handed me a wooden box. These are the scrolls and materials needed for the severing ceremony. Study them well. The ritual requires your complete focus. Thank you, I said, taking the wooden box. As I walked out of the plaza, I heard a few werewolves whispering behind me. She actually knows her place. A useless human like her, fit to be our Luna? The Alpha and Joanna are a match made in heaven. I quickened my pace, tears finally streaming down my face. Late that night, I opened the wooden box the shaman had given me, studying the complex runes and ritual requirements. The severing ceremony. No, I won't perform the severing ceremony, I muttered to myself. I'll use the Alliance Blessing Ceremony instead. The Alliance Blessing Ceremony would allow Scott to form a political alliance with Joanna's family even without me as his mate. He could have everything he wanted, without me needing to be there. I pulled out the human ID and the long-distance bus ticket from the bottom of my suitcase. I had prepared these things after my rebirth. Looking at my exhausted reflection in the mirror, I whispered, tomorrow, it will all be over. Chapter 2. Scott. Help me! A scream shattered the dawn quiet. Scott and I were standing at the entrance of Skyfall Ridge, about to climb together. The urgent cry for help made Scott tense up instantly. "Joanna?" he said, looking back sharply. A disheveled female werewolf stumbled towards us. It was Joanna's second-in-command, Melissa. "Alpha, it's terrible. Miss Joanna is breaking down. Her wolf is about to lose complete control," Melissa cried, tears in her eyes. "She found out you chose a human mate, and her mental strength completely shattered." Scott's face changed instantly. "Where is she?" "The family territory." Scott didn't even glance at me before turning to leave. After 3 steps, he stopped and said without looking back, "Wait for me." Then he disappeared into the forest. I stood there, shaking my head with a bitter smile. "Same as always, Scott. For 10 years, you've always put Joanna first." Back at my temporary quarters, I took out the items hidden under my pillow, a fake ID and a bus ticket to leave the Packlands. The bus was scheduled for 8 o'clock tonight, heading to a coastal town 500 miles away. A small note fell out from under the ticket. "Ticket confirmed, window seat. Safe travels, Eleanor." It was signed by the old shaman. He knew I was leaving. He always knew everything. I took a deep breath. It was time to face the hardest part. The atmosphere in the Elder Council Hall was solemn. I stood before Scott's parents, feeling their cold stares. "You requested a private meeting with us. What is it?" the former Alpha asked coldly. "I've come to say goodbye." I looked him straight in the eye. "I'm leaving the pack tonight, and I will never return." Scott's mother scoffed. "So you finally realized your place? But do you really think the severing ceremony can be completed so easily?" "I'm not here to talk about the severing ceremony." I shook my head. "I'm here to warn you." "Warn us?" Both of them frowned. "The moon goddess gave me a prophetic dream," I said gravely. "If Scott and I are forcibly bound together, 10 years from now, he will die a horrible death in a bloody battle." The temperature in the room plummeted. "What nonsense are you talking about?" Scott's father roared. "He will die saving me." My voice trembled with pain. "The Bloodfang Pack's silver bombs will explode right here." I pointed to my heart. "They'll shatter his insides, making him die in agony." The details I described were so precise that even the anger on Scott's father's face was replaced by shock. "I don't know if you believe in prophetic dreams, but I can't take that risk," I continued. "Let Scott and Joanna be together. I've already prepared for an alliance blessing ceremony, not a severing ceremony. This way, even if they aren't true mates, they can still form a solid political alliance." The former Luna Scott's mother nervously clutched her husband's hand. "This kind of thing. We can't just ignore it." "Where will you go?" the former Alpha asked. "As far away as possible," I said with a bitter smile. "Let Scott forget about me, this human." Leaving the Elder Council Hall, I felt a sense of relief. The second regret, regretting not defying the Elders' arrangements, was also fulfilled. Night fell, and I went to Skyfall Ridge alone. The moon had just risen, its silver light like water. This was the time Scott and I had agreed to meet. But I knew he wouldn't come. He was surely still taking care of Joanna. "It's so beautiful," I whispered, gazing at the magnificent aurora before me. "At least in this life, I get to see it with my own eyes." "You betrayed me." An icy voice came from behind me, and I whirled around. Scott stood there, his eyes burning with furious flames. He exuded a dangerous aura, his eyes glowing with a beastly golden light in the moonlight. "What exactly did you tell the Elders?" he demanded, stepping closer. They suddenly backed off all pressure on Joanna's family and even agreed to the alliance blessing. I took a step back. "I just told them the truth." "Bullshit," he roared. "Do you know what state Joanna is in right now? She was so desperate she used soul-devouring sorcery. That's forbidden." I widened my eyes in surprise. Soul-devouring sorcery? The kinda dark magic that could destroy the caster's soul? Why would she do that? "It's all because of you." Scott's eyes were filled with resentment. "Those damn stories you told the Elders made Joanna completely lose hope. She knows she can never have me." I froze. This wasn't right. If the elders had agreed to the alliance blessing, Joanna would be happy. Why would she try to destroy herself? Scott's fist slammed into a nearby rock with a loud crash. If anything happens to Joanna, I swear, I'll make you pay. Under the moonlight, his gaze was as cold as a blade, piercing my heart. Tell me. He advanced on me, his breath hot on my face. How do we save her? Chapter 3. There is a way, I said, biting my lip, my eyes determined. What way? Scott stared intently at me. Soul-devouring sorcery needs to be purified. Only a mate blessed by the moon goddess, by offering their life source, can do it, I said calmly, though my heart was racing. How do you know this? Scott's eyes narrowed, full of suspicion. The shaman told me. Jay lied. In reality, I had witnessed Joanna suffering the backlash of the sorcery in my past life. Let's go. Scott grabbed my wrist without another word, his grip strong enough to nearly crush my bones. We raced through the forest to the pack shaman's wooden cabin. In the dim candlelight, the old shaman was grinding some herbs. Shaman, is this true? Scott got straight to the point. Can a human's life source undo soul-devouring sorcery? The old shaman looked up, a flicker of surprise in his eyes, then looked at me, his expression complex. Yes, Alpha. But what? For a human, extracting their life source is almost fatal, the shaman sighed. She will most likely die. Scott's hand abruptly let go of me. He turned, his back to me, shoulders tense. No, I'm willing. I stepped forward, my voice firm. Scott whirled around, his eyes full of shock and anger. Are you crazy? What does this have to do with you? This is what I owe Joanna. I looked him straight in the eye. And what I owe you. He opened his mouth as if to say something, then closed it. The internal struggle was almost written on his face. Prepare the ritual, shaman, I said, not giving Scott a chance to object. The old shaman sighed and rose to prepare. Alpha, the ritual will be very painful. Are you sure you want to be present? Scott didn't answer, but his eyes told me he wouldn't leave. An hour later, the ritual site was ready. The shaman had drawn complex runes on the ground, surrounded by 7 lit black candles. Joanna was brought in, her condition shocking. Her skin was as pale as paper, her eyes completely black, with black bloodstains around her lips. Let's begin. The shaman motioned for me to lie in the center of the runes. Just then, Scott suddenly took off his leather jacket and covered my eyes with it. Don't look. His voice was surprisingly gentle. It's going to hurt a lot. In the darkness, I felt his presence near. I'll make it up to you, no matter what. The ritual began. Agony, like 1,000 knives stabbing my body simultaneously, coursed through me. I heard my own screams, felt my body being torn apart from the inside. Blood flowed from my nose, ears, and eyes. In a daze, I thought I saw a golden light surge from my chest and fly towards Joanna. Her agonized roars merged with my screams. Then, everything went dark. After some unknown time, I awoke to the beeping of a heart monitor. You're awake. I turned my head and saw Scott sitting by my bedside. He looked haggard, his eyes bloodshot. Joanna, I managed hoarsely. She's fine now, Scott replied softly. Thanks to you. I closed my eyes, feeling the weakness throughout my body. I could sense my life force had been greatly diminished. This was the price of offering my life source. Why did you do it? He asked, his voice a mixture of confusion and some emotion I couldn't decipher. This way, you don't owe me anything, I smiled. You can be with Joanna with a clear conscience. Scott frowned. The shaman said you'll need at least 3 months to fully recover. I was thinking, maybe I could take you to Seattle. They have the best human hospitals there. As compensation, his offer pained my heart. Still the same pattern: guilt, not love. No need, Scott, I said softly. I plan to leave this place. What? He shot up from his seat. There are no more debts between us. I looked him straight in the eye. I wish you and Joanna happiness. Scott opened his mouth to say something, but his phone suddenly rang. He glanced at it, and his face changed. It's Joanna. She's awake. Go on, I said, looking away. He hesitated for a moment, then finally left. After the door closed, I struggled to get up and change my clothes. The shaman had already prepared everything for me: forged discharge papers, enough medication, and tonight's bus ticket. I left a letter for the shaman to give to Scott. By the time you read this, I'll be gone. Don't try to find me. This is my choice. I've fulfilled my mission. Be happy, Alpha. At 7 p.m., I quietly slipped out of the PAX Medical Center. At 10 p.m., when Scott stormed into my hospital room, only to find the empty bed, the shaman handed him my letter. And just at midnight, breaking news spread throughout the PAC lands: a long-distance bus leaving town had lost control on a mountain road, crashed off a cliff, and burst into flames. On the passenger list, clear as day, was the name, Eleanor Miller. Due to the intensity of the fire, the bodies were severely burned and unrecognizable. Chapter 4. Scott's POV. No way, that's not her. Scott slammed his fist down, shattering the glass table in front of him. Blood dripped from his knuckles, but he didn't even notice. Alpha, the police have confirmed it, Beta Luke reported cautiously. Eleanor's name was on that bus manifest. All the passengers. Shut up, Scott roared, his golden eyes flashing dangerously. Get the car ready, now. 30 minutes later, Scott stood at the edge of a cliff, looking down at the charred wreckage of the bus. The search and rescue team was still at work. A few burned bodies had already been brought out. A real tragedy, a human police officer said, shaking his head. Guess we'll need DNA for IDs. Scott sniffed the air, trying to catch any trace of Eleanor. But all he could smell was gasoline, burnt flesh, and death. She's not here, he muttered. It can't be her. But then, a rescuer pulled something from the wreckage: a half-burned necklace with a moonstone pendant. Scott's heart stopped. It was the one he'd reluctantly given Eleanor at the Moonhunt Festival. Part of the marking ritual. No, he sank to his knees. Back in the PAC territory, Scott moved like a ghost through the main gate. Everyone avoided his eyes. No one dared go near the Alpha. His grief and rage were like a physical darkness, making the air heavy, suffocating. He pushed open the door to his home, and his father's fist met him. Scott stumbled back, blood trickling from the corner of his mouth. You fool, the former Alpha roared. For an outsider, you nearly got your own mate killed. And now you've let her die out there. She wasn't an outsider, Scott snarled. She's my mate. Oh, you realize that now? His father sneered. Yesterday you couldn't wait to sever your bond with her. Scott lunged, and he and his father crashed together. Furniture toppled, glass shattered, and the roars of two Alphas shook the whole house. Enough! Luna's sharp command cut through the air, and an unseen force pulled them apart. Scott gasped for breath, blood dripping from his forehead. Tell me, what did you do to her? Why did she leave? She came to say goodbye. His mother's voice was suddenly quiet. What? When she came to see us, she said she was leaving for good, Luna sighed. She told us about a prophecy. Scott froze. What prophecy? That if you stayed together, in 10 years, you would die saving her. His father cut in, the anger in his eyes slowly fading. She described it in such detail. A silver-laced bomb from the Bloodfang pack. Your insides, blown apart. Scott's face went white. He remembered what he'd said to Eleanor. If you really want to please me, just disappear from my world. And this, his mother said, holding out a scroll. The bond-severing ritual. She left. Scott unrolled the scroll, his shock deepening. It wasn't a bond-severing ritual. It was an alliance blessing, an ancient magic that let an Alpha, even without a mate, forge a strong political alliance with another pack. Eleanor was paving the way for him. Even as she was leaving, she still wanted to make sure he and Joanna's family could form a solid alliance. Why would she? 2 inches. His voice cracked. Maybe you should ask the shaman, his mother said quietly. He seems to know more. Scott raced to the shaman's hut. When he burst through the door, the old shaman was gazing out the window at the moon, as if he'd been expecting him. Where's Eleanor? Scott demanded. Is she really dead? Instead of asking that, the shaman turned slowly. Shouldn't you be asking yourself why Joanna used soul-draining magic? Scott froze. She told me it was because of pressure from the elders. Lies, the shaman scoffed. I just got word from the Bloodfang border. They found something interesting about a prisoner. He tossed Scott a flash drive. Take a look. Scott opened his laptop and plugged in the drive. An image of Joanna meeting secretly with a Bloodfang wolf appeared on the screen. Are you sure this will hurt Black Moon? Joanna asked. Of course, the man sneered. As long as you use the soul-draining magic like we planned, weaken yourself, we'll keep your family's secrets safe. Scott's hands started to shake. They had something on her, the shaman explained. The Bloodfangs threatened to expose her family's secret, forcing her to weaken herself. What secret? Her family's dealings with vampires, the shaman sighed. Enough to get her completely cast out of the werewolf world. Fury burned through Scott. Take me to her. Joanna was brought to the council hall. She looked healthy again, as beautiful as ever, but there was an undeniable arrogance in her eyes. Why? Scott demanded. Why did you lie to me? Lie? Joanna scoffed. I just used your weakness. What weakness? Your rejection of your own fated mate, she said with contempt. You were so desperate to escape your destiny, you never trusted your own heart, and you certainly didn't trust your mate. That's why you believed my lies so easily. Every word was like a knife twisting in Scott's heart. Do you have any idea what Eleanor did for you? Joanna went on. She gave up her life essence to save me, someone who hurt her. And you? You didn't even thank her. You just let her walk away, alone, to die. Shut up, Scott roared. You'll never deserve her. Joanna delivered the final blow. Alpha? What a joke. You can't even protect your own heart. Scott completely shattered. He roared, lock her up. Permanent imprisonment. And release the evidence of her family's dealings with vampires to all the packs. As Joanna was dragged away, the smirk finally vanished from her face, replaced by genuine fear. Scott sank to his knees, alone, his world collapsing around him. The truth seared into him like a red-hot poker. Eleanor had never betrayed him, but he had hurt her, again and again. He'd put his own pride and prejudice before true love, and now he'd lost everything. Eleanor, he whispered, tears streaming down his face. How am I ever going to find you? Then, the sharp ring of the phone. Scott's second-in-command finally had good news. The human police had just confirmed it. One female body was missing from the bus crash. Chapter 5. Eleanor's POV. Riley, don't touch that. That's for the vampire bats. I rushed over to the little wolf cub who was trying to open a blood bag. He snarled, a defiant glint in his eyes. Why are you always taking care of those bats? They're stinky and scary. Cause every life deserves respect, I said softly, putting the blood bag back in the fridge. Even creatures you don't like. 5 years. It had been 5 years. 5 years ago, with a shaman's help, I switched to a different bus at the last minute and got away. The old shaman had an elf friend take my place on the bus that was fated to go off a cliff, and they left a familiar necklace of mine there. Before I left, the old shaman gave me an ancient amulet with runes of a broken chain carved on it. Links aren't unbreakable, he'd said, all mysterious. When hate outweighs love, and your will is strong enough, the moon goddess will give you the right to choose. Fate him. I'd spat, my teeth clenched. I hate him with every fiber of my being. Once I'd repaid Scott for saving my life in our past life, all I had left for him was pure hatred. Every time I remembered how Scott humiliated me, his cold stare, his cutting words, if you really want to please me, just disappear from my world, I felt a sharp sting. Now I had a new life, in this small town in the Pacific Northwest, always shrouded in fog. My animal shelter became the only sanctuary around that took in supernatural creatures. Eleanor, phone, my assistant, Kate, called out. I wiped my hands and headed to the office. It's Derek, Kate said, wiggling her eyebrows. That sexy vet again. I rolled my eyes, but couldn't help a small smile. Derek was the only human vet in town who knew about the supernatural world. For the past 2 years, he'd been my friend and a huge support. Hey, Derek, I answered, my voice softening without me even trying. Got a big guy here who needs you, his deep voice came through the phone. An injured kappa. Got tangled in a fishing net. Be right there. I hung up and grabbed my medical bag. Derek's voice always made me feel safe and calm, something Scott never had. I stood by the docks, looking out at the grey sea. The morning mist swirled, blurring everything. This place suited me, someone who wanted to be forgotten. Ms. Eleanor, someone's here for you. Jenny, one of the shelter volunteers, suddenly rushed over, yelling. Who is it? I asked without turning around. Don't know him, but he looks not good. I turned and walked back to the shelter, down the foggy path. And then I saw him. Scott. He was standing there, so much thinner than before. His eyes were sunken, his gaze filled with exhaustion and a sorrow so deep it was suffocating. He wasn't that dazzling alpha anymore. He looked more like a lost, wild animal that had been wandering for ages. 5 years of hatred suddenly surged up inside me, hot as lava. How did you find me? My voice was ice, sharp as a knife. They've been looking for you for 5 years, Eleanor. His voice was raspy, like he hadn't spoken in a long time. 5 years. I've searched every corner of North America. Jenny got the hint and slipped out of the room, leaving the two of us to face off. You shouldn't have come, I said, turning away to pretend to organize bottles on the medicine shelf, trying to hide my shaking hands. Thad too. Scott took a step forward. I owe you an explanation, an apology, and… Stop. I held up a hand. I don't need anything from you. You've already given me more than enough humiliation, pain, 10 years of nightmares. What 10 years? Eleanor, please listen to me, he begged, his voice breaking. I never loved Joanna, never. I scoffed and turned to look him straight in the eye. Really? 10 years of humiliation and indifference, all because you didn't love her? You put me down in front of the whole pack every day, telling everyone I was a fragile human waste. Is that how you treat someone you don't love? Scott closed his eyes in pain. I was blinded by tradition and duty. I thought I had to. You always have an excuse. My voice trembled with rage. Duty? Tradition? What about your heart? Your empathy? You know what, Scott? I went on, my voice getting colder. I died once. Literally died. Do you know what that feels like? He stared at me, shocked. Saint feels like all hope is sucked out of you, leaving nothing but endless darkness, I said quietly. Death taught me one thing: I will never again be anyone's possession, anyone's sacrifice. Including yours. I glared at him, tears streaming down my face, my voice choked. It was in our past life. You hated me for 10 years after Joanna died in that accident, but then you saved me in the explosion. Everything I owed you, I've paid it back. I have every right to hate you, and every right to leave. My head. His voice trembled, and he suddenly collapsed to the floor, clutching his head as if it was splitting open. It was me, those 10 years, it was me who wronged you. He remembered everything. Pain flashed in Scott's eyes. How much do you hate me? Enough to be reborn. My eyes were like ice. It wasn't a lie. Scott flinched back as if he'd been stabbed. Tell me how to make it up to you. Anything. Eleanor, anything. There's nothing to make up for, I said coldly. I don't need your guilt, or your compensation. I just need you out of my life. I won't give up, his voice suddenly firmed. I've lost you once, I won't lose you again. You never had me. I couldn't help but scoff. Even the mate bond was just a mistake by the moon goddess. And you? You despised me so much. After I left, how come you're acting like you were deeply in love with me? Just then, the door opened. A tall, handsome man walked in, carrying a medical kit. Eleanor, that capper. He saw Scott and stopped short. Oh, sorry. Didn't mean to interrupt. It's okay, Derek. My voice softened considerably. Scott was just leaving. Derek, sensing the tension, came to my side, standing protectively. You okay? PMH fine? I smiled at Derek, a genuine, warm smile, the kind I'd never given Scott. Pain and jealousy flashed in Scott's eyes. The air around him grew dangerous, his alpha possessiveness almost a physical thing. I should go. Finally, he fought down his instincts and headed for the door. At the door, he stopped, without turning back. You know, for these 5 years, every new place I went, I'd ask the same question. Is there a lady here who takes in injured animals? Because I knew, wherever you were, you'd be using your kindness and warmth to light up those dark corners. His voice was low and raspy. I'll prove it to you, Eleanor. I'll be worthy of you, even if it takes a lifetime. The door closed, and Scott's figure disappeared into the fog. Who was that? Derek asked softly, his eyes full of concern. I leaned against the wall, feeling a wave of exhaustion. He's my nightmare, a nightmare I thought would never come back. Want to talk about it? Not right now, I shook my head. Let's go check on that Kappa first. Derek nodded, not pressing. Chapter 6. Him again. Kate sighed, pointing to the shelter fence. Scott was fixing a loose section. He'd been in town for 2 weeks, silently showing up around the shelter every day, mending things. Tell him to get lost, I said coldly, disgust clear in my voice. Eleanor. Kate hesitated. He looks like he's really trying. Maybe, no maybes, I cut her off. You don't know what he did. I pushed open the door and walked straight to Scott. He immediately put down his tools, a flicker of hope in his eyes. Leave, I said flatly. I don't want to see you. Eleanor, please, just give me a chance, he pleaded. You had your chance. 10 years of chances, I advanced on him, my voice shaking with anger. And how did you use them? Humiliating me, belittling me, rejecting me in front of everyone. Scott looked down, his face etched with pain. I know I was wrong. Knowing isn't enough, I sneered. Knowing doesn't erase the damage. Then what can I do? He asked, desperation in his voice. Tell me, Eleanor, anything. I looked him straight in the eye, my voice like ice. Leave. That's the only thing you can do for me. Scott's eyes looked shattered, but he didn't argue, just nodded silently, picked up his tools, and started to leave. Just then, a familiar truck pulled up to the shelter gate. Derek hopped out, a paper bag in his hand. Lunchtime, he called out with a smile, then he saw Scott. The air between the two men instantly tensed. Derek. I walked quickly towards him, pointedly ignoring Scott's wounded look. Everything all right? Derek asked quietly, his gaze shifting between me and Scott. Perfect. I took his hand, making sure Scott saw. Let's go eat. Derek clearly noticed what I was doing, but he didn't pull away. Instead, he squeezed my hand gently and walked with me into the shelter. Before the door closed, I saw Scott standing in the drizzle, alone and silent. Is that your ex? Derek asked as he unpacked the food. Something like that, I sighed. A mistake of a mate bond. Derek was quiet for a moment. Werewolf mate bonds are powerful. I thought they were unbreakable. I'd rather die than be tied to him by it, I said through gritted teeth. Derek looked at me seriously. You really hate him that much? You have no idea what he put me through. We ate in silence for a bit. Derek told a few funny stories about his cases to try and cheer me up. His humor and gentleness always managed to make me relax. There's a town fair tomorrow night, Derek said suddenly. I was thinking, maybe you'd like to go with me? It wasn't the first time we'd gone out together, but this felt like the first real date invitation. I looked into his kind brown eyes, and my heart sped up. Okay, I nodded, a smile playing on my lips. After lunch, Derek left for the clinic to deal with an emergency. I was organizing medical supplies when I suddenly heard a commotion outside. Kate burst in. Eleanor, quick, it's the Blood Fang Pack, they're hassling Scott. I dropped what I was doing and rushed outside. In the rain, Scott was surrounded by 3 big werewolves. I recognized one as the Blood Fang Beater. Well, look who it is, the Beater sneered. The alpha who lost his power. Does your pack know how pathetic you are? Giving it all up for a human who doesn't even love you. Scott stood his ground, not fighting back, not retreating. His eyes stayed their human color, he wasn't even calling on his wolf. T told you, stay away from me, Scott said calmly. This is your last warning. The Beater laughed. Warning? Who do you think you are anymore? Without your alpha power, you're just a stray mutt. Scott's expression didn't change. Leave. This is human territory. Nope, the Beater smirked. Not until we get what we came for. Where is she? You're human bitch. At those words, Scott's eyes flashed gold. Don't you dare call her that. The fight exploded in an instant. Even without some of his alpha strength, Scott was still a hell of a fighter. He took down 2 of them quickly, but the beater was craftier. He pulled a silver dagger from his belt and, when Scott was distracted, lunged for his back. Scott, look out. For some reason, the words just flew out of my mouth. Scott dodged in time, but the dagger still sliced a deep gash in his arm. Silver wounds were incredibly dangerous for werewolves. Seeing Scott injured, the beater grinned, ready for a killing blow. On pure instinct, I grabbed a wooden plank and slammed it over the beater's head. You! The beater turned on me, murder in his eyes. Scott immediately threw himself in front of me. You touch her, and you die. His voice was a terrifying growl, a deadly promise. The beater clearly realized he was outmatched and backed off, furious. This isn't over, Black Moon, the beater snarled, dragging his companions away. We'll be back. After they left, Scott collapsed, his face pale. The silver poisoning was already setting in. Kate, call Derek, I yelled, then knelt beside Scott to check his wound. Why did you save me? Scott asked weakly. You hate me. Shut up, I said coldly, but my hands were gentle as I tended to his arm. Derek arrived quickly and helped carry Scott inside. He expertly cleaned the wound and gave him an antitoxin. He'll be okay, Derek told me, but he needs to rest for a few days. I nodded and left the room, leaving Derek to look after Scott. That night, I tossed and turned, unable to sleep. The next day, Scott was doing better. He was sitting in the shelter's backyard, looking out at the distant sea. Why did they call you the Alpha who lost his power? I couldn't help asking. Scott turned to me, his eyes weary. Because I gave up my Alpha position. At the end of the 3rd year, the council made me choose. Either go back and do my duty, or be stripped of my Alpha status. I chose the latter. I stared at him, shocked. You gave up everything? Why? Because without you, the pack meant nothing to me, he said simply, as if it were the most obvious thing in the world. His words stung. No, I couldn't soften. I couldn't forget those 10 years of pain. That doesn't change the past, I said coldly. Scott nodded. I know. I don't expect you to forgive me. I just wanted you to know. I've paid a price for what I did, and I'll keep paying. I was silent. That evening, I still went to the town fair with Derek. The fair was bright with lights. Derek held my hand, leading me to try different foods. We danced, we laughed. He was the perfect gentleman. Funny, considerate, never pushy. You look happy, Derek said with a smile. I am, I answered honestly. With Derek, I felt light and warm, not the pain and suffocation Scott brought. Watch out, a drunk guy stumbled towards us, and Derek quickly pulled me aside, holding me in his arms. Chapter 7. I looked up and met his eyes. This close, I could smell the faint scent of pine on him. My heart hammered, and a strange warmth spread through me. Thanks, I whispered. He didn't let go right away, just looked down at me, his eyes full of tenderness. Eleanor, Derek. Eleanor, an anxious voice cut him off. It was the town sheriff. Trouble at the shelter. Someone reported seeing strangers breaking in. Riley and the other kids are still there. Derek and I sprinted to the parking lot. My heart was pounding so hard I thought it would burst. If those Bloodfang wolves hurt Riley. When we got to the shelter, the main door was wide open, and the place was a wreck. Chairs were overturned, medicine scattered everywhere. But what scared me more was the heavy smell of blood. Riley, I yelled. No answer. We carefully went inside and found Scott on the floor, covered in wounds. There was a nasty gash on his chest, bleeding heavily. Scott, I rushed to him. Even though I hated him, right then, all I felt was fear. Riley and the kids? Basement. Safe. Scott coughed up blood. I held them off, but they said, they'll be back. Derek was already calling for an ambulance. Is lost too much blood. I need to get to a hospital now. No. Scott struggled to sit up. A normal hospital. Can't treat silver wounds. I saw it then, The edges of the wound on his chest were tinged green-silver poisoning. "You can save him, Eleanor," Derek said suddenly. "With your abilities." I froze. I knew I had some healing ability, but I'd never really understood where it came from or how it worked. And why should I save Scott? He deserved this. But looking at his pained face, a flicker of something uneasy stirred deep inside me. Not love, but responsibility? Pity? Or something more complicated? "I don't know if I can," I hesitated. "To know you hate him." Derek knelt beside me, his voice gentle but firm. "But if you let him die, you'll always wonder if you could have chosen differently." Derek's words hit me. Yes, I hated Scott. But letting him die wouldn't erase my pain. It might even haunt me for the rest of my life. "Okay, I'll try." I placed my hands on Scott's chest, closed my eyes, and tried to recall that feeling of energy. Nothing. "Focus," I told myself. I remembered the moon goddess's voice. "Great pain and great love are equally powerful. Your heart has grown strong through both hatred and love." Yes, to escape the shadows of my past life, I'd been willing to give anything. That intense emotion, that determination, was the true source of my power. A warm, golden light flowed from my fingertips, surrounding Scott's wound. "What's happening?" Derek stepped back, amazed. "She's healing him." Riley's little head poked out from the basement door, eyes wide with awe. "Eleanor is a messenger of the moon goddess." The golden light grew stronger, filling the room. I could feel Scott's wounds knitting together, his life force returning. Finally, the light faded. Scott's wounds were completely healed, leaving only faint scars. He opened his eyes, staring at me in shock. "You saved me." "Why?" "Don't get any ideas," I said coolly. "I just didn't want the shelter to become a crime scene." Standing up, I felt a new wave of determination. It was time to completely break my link with Scott and be truly free. "To know why you came," I said to Scott. "Because of the mate bond. As long as it exists, the Bloodfang pack will keep hunting us, because I'm your weakness." Scott nodded weakly. "I'm so sorry for dragging you into all this." "Don't be sorry," I cut him off, my voice firm. "Because I'm going to end it." Scott looked up, shocked. "What?" "I'm going to break our mate bond," I announced. "For good." "No. That's impossible." Scott's voice trembled with fear. "Mate bonds can't be broken. The old shaman gave me an amulet." I pulled out the amulet with the broken chain rune from around my neck. "The moon goddess will give the right to choose to those who are determined enough." "Eleanor, think about this," Scott said desperately. "Do you know what breaking the bond means for an alpha? I'll lose the chance to ever find a true mate, to ever complete a true marking." "I've thought it through," I said coldly. "This is what I've wanted from day one. True freedom." Scott closed his eyes in pain. "If this is your choice." "It is," I said firmly. I closed my eyes, clutched the amulet, and called out to the moon goddess. A silvery white light descended from the sky, enveloping me. "Child," the goddess's voice echoed in my mind, "are you sure you want to do this?" "Yes," I answered without hesitation. "I don't want to be bound by fate. I want to choose my own path, my own love." The goddess was silent for a moment. "Your hatred is so deep, yet you can channel healing. That is rare." "My power comes from my desire for freedom," I explained. "Healing others makes me feel like I'm more than just fate's puppet." "You have a rare will, Eleanor," the goddess said. "That is why I gave you the gift of healing. You have the right to make your own choice." I felt a force wrench from my heart, the sensation of my link with Scott being torn away. Agony ripped through me, but I gritted my teeth and held on. The light faded. I felt an emptiness in my chest, but then an incredible sense of relief washed over me. That feeling of being connected to Scott, mind to mind, was gone. In its place was complete freedom. Scott was on his knees, gasping in pain. "The link, it's broken." He looked at me, stunned, his eyes filled with disbelief and a deep, raw hurt. "Eleanor, do you really hate me that much?" "I don't hate you, Scott," I said calmly. "I just chose myself." Derek came to my side, a silent support. He didn't speak, but his presence gave me strength. Scott looked at us, and finally, understanding dawned. You chose him. T chose happiness, I replied. I chose someone who respects me, who cherishes me. Scott closed his eyes, a look of deep pain on his face. I understand. He slowly got to his feet. I'll leave this town. I won't bother you again. Thank you, I said simply. Scott walked to the door, then paused. Even though this isn't how I wanted it to end, I'm still glad I met you, Eleanor. You taught me what true love and responsibility really mean. His voice held genuine regret and a blessing. May you find true happiness. I didn't answer. Watching him leave, I no longer felt the old resentment, just a strange kind of peace. Derek gently took my hand. Are you okay? Better than I've ever been, I answered. Chapter 8. 6 months later, my life was completely different. Without the mate bond tying me down, I finally felt like my own person. The shelter was thriving. We even started taking in supernatural creatures from all over the country. Derek and I were getting serious. His patience, understanding, and unconditional support helped me slowly open up again, to learn to trust and love. What are you thinking about? Derek wrapped his arms around me from behind, kissing my hair. Just thinking about how much has changed these past few months, I leaned back into his warmth. Good changes? The best, I smiled, turning to kiss him. We were standing in the shelter's backyard, watching the sunset paint the sea gold. Riley and the other little animals were playing on the grass. This was the life I'd always dreamed of. A letter came for you, Kate walked over, handing me an elegant envelope. Looks like a formal invitation. I opened it. It was an invitation to the Black Moon Pack's new Alpha inauguration ceremony. Luke had taken Scott's place. Are you going to go? Derek asked. I thought for a moment. I think so. I need to really put the past behind me. Derek nodded. 1 foot, I'll go with you. 2 days later, we drove to the Black Moon Pack's territory. This place, where I'd lived for 10 years, filled with so many painful memories, now seemed strangely unfamiliar. The inauguration was solemn and simple. Luke was a fair, respected wolf. He'd be a good alpha. Eleanor, Luke approached me after the ceremony. Thanks for coming. Congratulations, Alpha, I said sincerely. Luke hesitated. There's something I should tell you. About Scott. My heart skipped a beat. What is it? Since he left that town, he's been trying to find a way to atone, Luke explained. He started an organization that protects abused supernatural creatures, especially mixed bloods and weaker ones. I looked at Luke, surprised. That didn't sound like the arrogant Scott I once knew. Is he okay? I couldn't help asking. Physically, yes, Luke sighed. But losing a mate bond is a heavy blow for an alpha. He's changed a lot. I bit my lip, a mix of emotions stirring inside me. Not guilt, more like a sense of release and reconciliation. Scott had finally understood the importance of respect and equality, even if it was too late. Do you know where he is? I asked. Luke gave me an address. It was a small sanctuary near the Canadian border. Are you going to see him? Derek asked on the way back, no jealousy in his voice, only concern. 7 think so, I said. Not to rebuild anything, just for aerial goodbye. Derek squeezed my hand. I understand. Some things need a proper ending. His understanding and support, once again, showed me I'd made the right choice. The next day, I drove to the sanctuary alone. It was a peaceful forest with a simple log cabin in the middle. Scott was outside, helping an injured young werewolf with rehabilitation exercises. He looked even thinner than the last time I saw him, but his eyes were calmer. He froze when he saw me. Eleanor? Yeah, I nodded. I heard about what you're doing. He gave a small, almost shy smile. Just trying to do something meaningful. We walked in silence along a forest path. Why did you come? He finally asked. For a real goodbye, I answered honestly. To make sure we can both truly move on. Scott nodded, understanding in his eyes. I get it. Hated you for a long time, Scott, I said calmly. That hate kept me going. But I don't need it anymore. You found happiness, he said. It wasn't a question. Yes. Derek's a good man. He respects me, cherishes me, loves all of me. Scott smiled, a genuine smile, free of pain. I'm happy for you, Eleanor. Really. I looked at him and saw that the regret and pain in his eyes had been replaced by a kind of peace. And you? Are you okay? I'm learning to accept things, he said softly. Losing the bond was hard, but it taught me to value every life, to respect every choice. A wave of relief washed over me. Scott really had changed. He wasn't that arrogant alpha anymore. Pain and loss had changed him, helped him grow. I don't regret breaking the bond, I looked him straight in the eye. But I want you to know, I don't hate you anymore. A flicker of surprise crossed Scott's face, then deep gratitude. Thank you, Eleanor, that means a lot to me. We reached a clearing. The mountains in the distance were a magnificent purple in the setting sun. Do you remember Skyridge Peak? Scott asked suddenly. I remember. I nodded. It was the pack's sacred place, and the cliff I'd jumped from in 2 lifetimes. I go there often to think, Scott said. Imagine how things would be if I'd made different choices. But eventually, I understood. We can't change the past. We can only learn from it and move forward. His words softened something inside me. Not love, but a kind of understanding. Jay should get back, I said. Derek's waiting for me. Scott nodded. He's a lucky man. 7 meters lucky too. I smiled. Before I left, Scott handed me a small wooden box. This is for you. Not a gift, but a promise. I opened it. Inside was a delicate wood carving of a deer, standing free and independent in a forest. What does it mean? Freedom, Scott said softly. I promise to always respect your choices, to never interfere in your life again. Unless you need help. I took the carving, feeling a strange warmth. Thank you. Driving away from the sanctuary, I felt completely at peace. This meeting with Scott wasn't about forgiveness. It was about letting go. I didn't need to hate him to define myself anymore. I'd found my own way. Back in town, Derek was waiting for me at the shelter entrance. Will everything go okay? He asked, concerned. Yeah, I nodded, taking his hand. Perfectly. I didn't go into detail about my conversation with Scott, but Derek seemed to understand. He held my hand tightly, his eyes full of love. Ready to get on with our life? He asked with a smile. More ready than ever, I said firmly. 2 months later, Derek proposed to me on the beach where we had our first real date. I said yes without a moment's hesitation. Are you sure? Derek asked seriously. You know I'd never ask you to forget your past. PM sure, I smiled. The past is the past. I choose now, I choose the future, and I choose you. On my wedding day, I received an anonymous letter. It contained only a short blessing. May you find eternal happiness. S. I smiled and closed the letter, feeling nothing but calm. Scott was a distant memory, no longer able to affect my emotions or choices. Derek came to my side and gently kissed my forehead. Ready, future Mrs. Hayes? More ready than ever, I took his hand. Outside, moonlight flooded the garden, silver and white. I knew the moon goddess was watching us, smiling. She had given me a second chance at life, and she had given me the right to choose. This time, I chose my own path. Not a mate forced by fate, not a relationship bound by duty, but the life I truly wanted. True freedom, true choice, true love. That was all I had ever longed for. The end. And that's a wrap on today's reading here at Booked for Drama. If you felt anything, rage, swoon, second-hand heartbreak, let me know in the comments. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share with your fellow drama lovers. If you have any requests, drop them in the comments. Until next time, keep reading, and keep the drama on the page.